Hello YouTubes, this is Grimweird coming back at you with another wonderful episode of Enigmatica 2 Expert Mod Pack Playthrough Action for Minecraft 1.12.2. As always, we are joined by our lovely avatar Zombie Steve. When last we spoke, we were trying to get into maybe some void mining, which requires some litherite to make the void miner. And so we were trying to get into that whole situation. And if we look here at making enderite, or litherite, I should say, the way that we have available to us is terrestrial artifacts being infused with molten enderium by the fluid transposer. And if we look at those terrestrial things, they're just made up with a whole ton of empowered stuff from actually additions. So what I did was I made a bunch of that stuff and put it all through here. And as you can see, I've now made a ton of terrestrial artifacts. So one thing I noticed was that I had originally put in a basic item filter, which I think only held about like 5 or 6 things that you could whitelist. And I quickly ran out of slots with that, so I had to upgrade to the big item filter, and that wiped out my whitelist, so I then had to reprogram, or I had to program some stuff in again, or will have to the next time I want to make, say, Restonia, which takes all the red items, or Emeradic, which takes all the green items. But yeah, so basically we did that. I've got this set up where I can just throw everything in the chest. And, for instance, if I'm making the blue stuff, the palace, the cobalt will go here, and the lapis lazuli plates will go here, and the congealed blue slime will go there. So it's just making sure that you get one each at each of the display stands, while the middle then takes the palace crystal block to be accepted. The only hitch in making a ton of this empowered stuff was that, I accidentally failed to follow my own advice. You have to use the same amount of reagents in the display stands, whether you're doing one crystal or a block of crystals. So it saves you a lot of resources and effort if you do blocks instead of crystals. Because as you can see here, I accidentally forgot to make void crystal blocks. So my first run through was only void crystals, and I had to repeat it again to get a bunch more with blocks. And the black iron blocks were sort of a pain to make because you have to make them you have to make them with blocks of invar and then some sort of coal type substance, so I used blocks of graphite, but still making like blocks of invar and blocks of graphite, and each of that only gives you 3 ingots of black iron, so you need basically 3 blocks of invar to make a block of black iron. So that was a bit expensive, and I regretted making that mistake, but otherwise things went fine, and I made them all into our industrial. I unblocked them and made them all into terrestrial artifacts, and we got a bunch of that. And I also was able to set up stuff. What's new? So we got the rock crusher from last time. So I made a fluid transposer and reinforced it. I brought out my magma crucible from storage and reinforced it. I also brought out the fluid infuser because I needed it for something, I forget what. So basically what we're going to do today, and I also had to use, what else did I have to use? I don't remember. So making the enderium ingot, so that one was a bit time consuming and resource heavy. So let's see, how did I make that again? So I infused a lead platinum alloy. That's why I had my infuser out with resonant ender. So the magma crucible will melt the ender pearls, which I now have thousands and thousands and thousands of, thanks to our new Ender IO Enderman farm. And so then I just infused that into the lead platinum alloys. And one of the things that I remembered is that I think I'm going to be needing for the void miner some iridium for the diode. And so I think another important recipe that I want to remember for next time that I try and do this was the recipe that, let's see, where is iridium ingot? This guy. So the other important recipe for this was this recipe. So cinnabar and platinum ore, giving you not only 3 platinum, but a 100% chance of an iridium ingot. So I think this is a very important recipe to remember. The cinnabar came from specifically pulverizing. I used redstone ore. Originally, a lot of my mining was done with my Silk Touch pick, so I had a lot of unbroken redstone ore, so I got a lot of cinnabar that way. And then I have a bunch of platinum ore, and I did the induction smelter for that. And this gave me the platinum to use for my lead platinum alloy, which I then turned into enderium ingots. So that all sort of came together, and I'm glad I remembered to make my platinum with cinnabar so that I would get some iridium out. So if I look here, I think I now have, I now have 39 iridium ingots, because I started out doing something that gave me a small chance of pulverized iridium, and then I remembered that I needed to do that other recipe so that I got iridium ingots out at a better chance. So that was a pretty big deal because I don't have any access to iridium ore yet. So that was an important thing. But now we're going to just go ahead and make some litherite. So, sorry, it's been since yesterday. Let's see, I'm going to do that. I got to get the thing in there, so I got to make sure that this is going to be outputting to the right into here. I need to make sure this is in accepting, and I need to throw, I think I'm going to need about 48 to do this. So that's now cooking, and that's now going over into here, and we're in business. I've got the top set to both input and output. I haven't made anything advanced yet, or any ME attachment to this yet, other than that the results are coming out and going straight into the ME system thanks to this interface. So if we take a look here at Litherite, we should be able, if we can type, we should be able to watch this going up. 24. So one thing I'll say is, now we're at 25, one thing I'll say is that this process is not fast. So I did go ahead and put both the reinforced, the hardened and then the reinforced upgrades on this, and put into speed processing, and it's still not exactly burning through this stuff, as you can tell. So that's something to keep in mind. This is definitely a set it up and walk away kind of thing. But it is working. We are getting litherite up to 28. I think, so if we look at the void miner recipes, I'm not exactly sure what all components it needs and which ones. So there's this resource miner controller tier 1 and the ore miner controller tier 1. I have a feeling we're going to want to start with the ore miner, but I probably want to make both. It'll just depend on how much resources I have. I'm planning towards trying to make both tier 1s. But for the ore miner, we are looking at 4 blocks, bricks, what have you, of litherite. And so 4 times 9 is 36. And then if we look over here, we need another 4 blocks, so another 36. So that's what I'm sort of aiming for, is to make at least, is to get up to at least 72 litherite, so I can make 8 blocks of it. And then once we do that, we'll probably jump straight into a green lens, which I think has the good chance of getting litherite out. So this guy, probably jump straight into that as our first lens that we use. And yeah, we'll see what happens. So I haven't looked too much at all the rest of this stuff, which is always a mistake because there's probably other gotchas coming up on me, other things, resources that I don't have. Blocks of diamond are doable. The interconnect is black concrete or black concrete, which is not a big deal. That's just black dye, sand, and gravel. Blocks of irons and redstones, pretty easy. Connectors are blocks of tin. Signalum ingots, so I'll need to make a bunch of signalum ingots. I can do that, but I don't have any on hand. That's an awful lot of tin too, so I should, while I'm thinking about it, I should prepare for that. Fortunately, I have that set up for auto crafting, so we'll just go ahead and get that cooking along. And what else do we need here? So I think it's the diode is the only stuff that has the bad things in it. Empowered void crystal blocks. I hope I left myself some of those. Mana infused gears. Mana infused ingots. I think you can make these. Yes, induction smelter. No, maybe not. What's the good way to make this? Infusing mana steel. So I better make sure I have some mana steel available. 42 ingots. That'll probably get us done, but mana steel's not too hard to make. So what else do we need? We need machine frames. Oh god, these are such a pain to make, and I burn through them so fast. I'll probably have to make another load of at least 4 of these. This is why we needed the iridium. So this, I think, is the only other hard thing to do. Litherite and iridium, I think, are the 2 sticking points for getting into void mining. But as you saw, we have plenty of that now. Advanced alloy we can make. I think I have that on AutoCraft now, so I should go ahead and... oh, there it is. Get some of those cooking ahead of time. So yeah, basically I think we're all good to go. I think we have everything we need. We just got to get it all assembled. Might be a few things that we have to deal with, but on the whole, I think we're well on our way to a void miner. So then the rest of the question is, what all else do you need to make? So these are big multi-block structures. So it's going to require 24 structure frames. So let's take a look at that. At Enviro. Structure frames. Oh goodness, so that's going to be more litherite. That's doable. It just means that to start out with, I might have to do the ore miner and get to the resource miner later. assuming that litherite crystal is going to come through the ore mining rather than the resource mining. I will double check that because I'm not sure what resource mining is. But yeah, so that, and we need quite a few of those. 24, so that's like 48 litherite. Alright, well, I might have to empower some more stuff and do some more things. It's always good to look at these before you get too carried away, but then again, where's the fun in that? Structural panels, or structure panels. That's all doable. A lot of tin blocks. I should make even more tin. 2 laser cores. Oops. So that is any glass and ingots. That's easy. And a laser lens of any type. We're probably going to start out with the green and try to start void mining, which is basically just the clear with some dye, and the clear one is just glass in an H. So we can do all that. Even though I thought I was making a ton of litherite, it's not going to stretch as far as I had hoped, because I forgot to take into account that it's used in the structure blocks. But that's alright. We've got 40 some more coming, so that will be 116 or so maybe. So 116 we're going to need, just for the blocks for the ore miner, we're going to need 36. So we got plenty to get one of the void miners done. And I'm going to pause right now and go look up what the resource miner does and which one gives me litherite, so that I make sure I make the correct one, either the ore miner or the resource miner. And I will be back in a moment. Okay, I did some reading up on void miners and both ore and resource. Definitely for the litherite, getting started on that. It looks like it's coming out of the ore miners, as we can see here. And going up through the stages of the tier 2 requires erodium. That also comes from the ore miners, etc. Looks like one of the primary things to come out of the resource miners would be mica, which I think is used in a lot of stuff. Not only upgrading the resource miners itself, but also probably used in a bunch of other junk if we hit use on that. There's things going on here, like it looks like the upgrades and mods require it. And then if we look here, it's going to be used in ultimate crafting eventually for neutron collector, whatever that is. Bottom line is, I think we need to start with litherite type 1 tier 1. And since we're going to have enough litherite to make that, what we want to focus on is not more litherite necessarily, but on getting erodium. And so erodium, we're going to be looking at making a magenta laser lens instead of a green one, which means magenta dye. So that's where we are headed. And I think I think this is done. And I don't think I have any leftover enderium, so I calculated that right. A rare math win for me, and 116 litherite. So we are good to go there. We're going to need Gonna need 4 blocks. Guess we might be able to get into the resource miner too. I'll just have to double check how many of the stuff we need, because we're gonna need a bunch of these, which I don't have the interconnects, but that's gonna be at least, how many was it? It was, let me double check. 24, so we're going to need 48 litherite for that, of which we have 80 left over. So no matter how you cut it, we're not probably going to have enough to get the tier 1 thing going. However, we should get some litherite, even if it's a small percentage, from the tier 1 guy, ore miner. So eventually we will be able to make follow it up with a resource miner. Or I can always just make more stuff. But I've sort of been there, done that over the last day and a half of play time, so I think we're just going to stick with the void one with a magenta lens and call it a day. So I want to look at probably magenta dye. That's going to come from a lilac. Or an allium or a wildflower. I should hopefully have one of those. Boom. So we got some magenta dye. I'm going to keep that in my inventory to remind me that I'm no longer wanting to make a green one, that I want to make a lilac one. Alright, so now it just comes down to making this laundry list of things here. So all of the stuff that goes into this. So I'm going to pause the recording here. None of this is particularly fascinating types of crafting. It's all just normal crafting table garbage. So I'm going to not film that. So I'm going to spend the next 10-15 minutes making all this junk. And then I did find out that one of my quest book things, either that or maybe I found it in a chest somewhere. I do have an assembler already. And so once I get all the blocks in place, you place the controller and then just basically right click on the controller with the assembler and it auto places the rest of them. So that's pretty cool. And it has to have a view shooting down towards bedrock. So it's going to suck up a lot of power, so I'm going to have to run power to it. I'm not exactly sure where I want to put it. Maybe over here somewhere. I could do it over here. It's going to end up being like a 7x7 base, 5 high. So the 5 high doesn't worry me, but 7x7 is a pretty big area. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I might have to expand the walls a bit if I want to put it here and shoot at this bedrock. Or I could always just put a hole in the floor upstairs and shoot it down from there. Let's see. This, I want to apologize for my base layout. So I watch other playthroughs from people who are other experts, and they make wonderful, beautiful bases that look very cool and are very organized and elegant. And I do actually like to do that stuff. However, since I am new to almost all of this stuff, and I've only used it on very small scales, I'm not used to planning bases around all of this tech equipment and all of this running power and ME cables everywhere. And since I don't really know what I want it to look like and where everything is and even what the footprints are going to be like, I had no idea I was going to be making this arc furnace monstrosity. Or a vast overkill melon farm, automated melon farm, which I still have not used any more melons because this advanced generator is so efficient at burning ethylene for power that I'm barely touching it. But because I don't really know what kind of space I need and how it's all going to fit together, it makes it really hard for me to make a design and anticipate where things are going to go, other than potentially, just copying what other YouTubers are doing, but that's no fun and sort of rude. But I again, I'm not an expert. I am just trying to become an expert by forcing myself to use mods that I'm not familiar with and getting into this heavily modded stuff. And now that I'm sort of seeing how things are developing, I think in the future I will have a much better idea for how to lay out a good-looking and aesthetically pleasing base while while pre-arranging areas for knowing that, for instance, I'll know that it's like, okay, I'm going to need a big ol' 7x7 area for my Empower. I'm going to need a 7x7 area for a Void Miner, or possibly bigger with the bigger tiers. I don't even know that yet. I'll know what kinds of things I need to make space for, and I'll know, how I'm going to need to wire them and ME wire them for both electricity and ME interface. So my next playthrough will probably look a lot cleaner. That being said, I still get the urge every time I think about this to just tear everything down and make a new base. But I'm trying to resist that urge, because then I'll end up spending a week doing that and not progressing through the mod pack. And since this is a learning experience, not an aesthetic experience, I'm trying to avoid spending a ton of time on that and then burning myself out. Anyway, I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to make the rest of our Void Miner in the crafting terminal, and we will come back and set it up. Bye for now. I'll be back in a moment. Or possibly more than a moment. So I'm looking at making the rest of this stuff, and so I need 24 of the structure frame tier 1s, and each of those requires an interconnect, and each of those requires 4 connectors, and each of those requires 4 blocks of tin. So, quick bit of math. I'm looking at 24 of these and 4 of these each for to go into that. So that's like 96 of these that I need. And of those 96 things, each of them takes 4 blocks of tin. So I basically need close to 400 blocks of tin times 9 for the ingots. So that's like 3,600 ingots of tin. Are you shitting me? Pardon my French. 3,600 tin ingots I need to get going. Yeah. That's a little extreme. I don't think my CPU will even handle that. Let's see, so I gotta check my ore supplies on tin just to make sure I have a freaking enough ore. So I've got 1,000, doubled will be 2,000. Let me take a look at the uses for this, because I'm going to need to dip into this too probably. So for the nether tin, I'll probably end up smelting it first. I can just go straight through the enrichment chamber, or I can smelt it. Oh, the crusher, here we go. The crusher will give me 6. That's actually a pretty good rate. So yeah, it looks like nether tin through the Actual Editions crusher might be a good way to go. I do not have that bad boy automated, but I do have it built, I believe. Yes. Alright, so I'm going to be gone for a while off camera, because I'm going to make 3,610 freaking ingots and things like that. But then I will be back and we will do our Void Miner. I just I paused for a moment and then went to look at, okay, let's make this stuff. And I started doing some back of the napkin calculations and went, oh crap, that's a lot of tin. So I had to get back on camera and express my concern. But now that I have vented, I'm just going to get on with it and let's verify this recipe works. And I will be back shortly. Yay. Okay, so see you in a bit. Sorry, I'm still in a bit of shock about how much tin this is going to take. But I better look ahead to the erodium. What does this guy take? It allows you to just upgrade the existing ones. Well, thank God. I was worried that it would, require, it's like, okay, now they do the same thing with like steel. You need like a gazillion steel. 3,600 steel to upgrade. But no, you just upgrade the basic with the fancy crystals. That's doable. Alright, I'll stop stalling. I'm going to be making tin for the next half hour, and I will be back. Alright, I am making tin, and for the first time, so this is sort of my initial setup. So I've got, for ME, for auto crafting, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 CPUs, which I've never really felt compelled to do more than 2 or 3 CPUs at a time, 2 or 3, projects going on at a time in auto crafting so far. And then 4 of them are only 1K, and this bad boy is 3K. But now, making all this tin is the first time that I've really felt compelled to have more. So one thing I did do was I went ahead and moved the actually Additions Crusher up here, and I've given it a pattern for 1 nether tin into 3 pulverized tin. And I've also got, unless it finished already, I've also got this bad boy turning regular stuff into tin through its a 1 tin ore, vanilla tin ore, into 2 pulverized tin. So those are both cooking along. So I'm doing okay, but I could be doing better. I've also got a 3rd CPU working on turning dust into ingots. So everything's going fine, but it could be better, and it has shown me that we are not far away from wanting more stuff. So I made some more 1K, whoa! So I made some more 1K units, and I'm going to bump this bad boy. Gosh darn it. The flying is really handy, but then having shift be going down is not always really handy when you're trying to shift right click on something while you're in the air. So we're going to bump this bad boy up to 5K. At 3K it was giving me several hundred tin at once it was allowing me to do, and I wanted to do some bigger recipes. So now I think I'll be able to get up to like, maybe a couple thousand. And then I also want to turn a couple of other CPUs into 2K. So I'm going to go ahead and actually I might turn all the rest of them into 2K. See, I think one of them went back into storage when I broke it. Actually, I haven't used, I think the most I've ever used, most CPUs I've always used so far in parallel have been 3. So maybe I'll just turn a second one into 3K, which I knew which order they were in. That one's definitely 0. And then I think that this is CPU 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I think for right now I'm going to just throw that on there. It has to stay in a rectangle, so I can't have 2 and then 1, because that L shape wouldn't work. But there, let me see if I can I have the semi interface table, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. These are all my interfaces that I've got hooked up and what's in them. But I'm not sure how to tell what size of CPUs you have and what numbers they are. I think you can name them with an anvil, but that seems overly complicated to me. So let's see. Oh, nothing's active, so everything appears to have finished. Let's see where we're at. We've got 10 ingots. Oh, we're almost up to 1,000. And pulverized tin. Got 1,000 there almost. So we're getting there. I think we need 3,600. Going to go for a nice even 4,000. Let's see. Well, first let's just sort of get a feel for how big my 5K CPU will do. Will it handle 2,000 now? It looks like it has enough CPU to do 2,000 at a time, but we don't have that much nether tin ore left. The other thing I'm not quite sure is I have, so if I go back to here, cancel this. So I have pulverized tin, but I have two things that will make it. I have regular ore into 2 tin, and I've got nether ore into 3 tin. Actually, now that I think about it, I wonder why I'm doing that. Is it 3 or is it 6? Now I'm spacing. Hold on. Six. Pardon me. Okay, so that makes more sense. I was getting confused for a moment. I think I actually programmed my thing to say it's going to get 3. Wonder if that's good or bad. I know you can go over and it won't hang your system, but I wonder what that does to the bytes used. So for instance, let's say I'm going to take a netherrack and I'm going to turn it into 6 tin, pulverized tin. If I tell the system that one netherrack is doing 1 pulverized tin, does it use up less bytes than if I tell the system that I've got 1 netherrack going into 6 pulverized tin? I think that's an interesting question, because if so, then it would make it harder for accounting, because you'd have to sort of remember in your head that when you ordered up 6 tin, you didn't want to make 6 recipes and get 36 tin by mistake. But on the other hand, it might save you a lot of bytes if you only tell your ME system that it's making 6 tin with 6 netherrack when it's really making 36, but it's not really keeping track of the rest. These are the kinds of things that I think about and want to experiment with. I don't think I can let this go, so I'm going to go ahead and try it. So let's say I'm going to, what was it I wanted to do? Oh, that's right, pulverized tin. So pulverized tin, I'm going to tell it that I want to make, let's say 10, and I've got 4 going into 12 because I set up the accidentally set it up for 1 netherrack equals 3, and that's going to take 42 bytes. So now let's go grab that pattern out of here and correct it. So we can go in here, we can throw it in there, we can X that, we could tell it that 1 equals 6, and then re-encode it, and go put it back in. Oops, guess I didn't have to come back down here. And now we're going to tell it we want to make tin again. And now, oops, now it's doing the other recipe. Gosh darn it. Way to flummox my plans. I'm not sure how to change that. And here's how I can tell which number is. So I can see here that storage 0 is 5120. That's the one I thought it was. Storage 1 is at 3000. That's the one I thought it was. And then the rest are 2000. Number 4 on the end is at 1000. Okay, so at least I have my numbers straight and know how to tell. But here's what I don't know how to do. If I have two recipes for pulverized tin from regular ore and from nether ore, how do I force it to do one or the other? That I am not sure about. I think what I'll do is I'll just start that and then start another one. I was hoping that if this was busy, it would then show me the netherrack one. But it ain't. All right, well, that's going to take some more research. But anyway, this is me just futzing around. This is why I sometimes spend multiple hours not filming myself, because I'm doing stupid crap like this, trying to figure stuff out. But I might have to Google how to, if you have two different ways of making pulverized tin, if it's possible to specify which one you want. And then I can complete my experiment on lying to your ME system about how much you're making to see if it uses up less bytes. Anyway, I will turn off the camera and hopefully come back when I have everything ready for a void miner and have some answers. Well, I just checked the runtime and we are already going over our time limit for this episode, since I've been babbling about Litherite and void miner ores versus resource and what the plan is, and magenta versus green, and updating my applied energistics system here and playing around with tin production to make 3,600 freaking ingots of tin. So we're just going to call this an episode. Sorry that I got sort of sidetracked here on stuff, but that's the reality of this kind of mod pack, is that when you're going along, sometimes you think, oh, I'm going to make this. The next thing you know, you're down the rabbit hole. So next episode, I swear, we will assemble and try out a void miner for ore with a magenta lens so we can get some erodium, so we can upgrade the void miner to tier 2. So I will see you next time. Bye.